Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is I, your host, Mr. Sean, and welcome back to Chimera Miniatures' official YouTube channel. Just wanted to let you know that today, Friday, is the last day of my Etsy sale, so when you get paid today, make sure to head on over to Chimera Miniatures' Etsy page, link in the description, and enjoy 20% off all orders, and as always, free domestic shipping on all orders $35 or more. With that out of the way, today we're going to have another video looking at incels, but not the posts they make themselves. These are rather answers from askreddit about people who know incels and what the incels problem actually was, as opposed to just not getting laid like they like to say is the source of all their problems. So without further ado, let's get going.
Redditors with incel friends or acquaintances, what is the actual problem that they just don't get?
I choose to be a virgin.
Okay, Edwin, sure. You're 31 years old and a chronic masturbator. The problem is, my friend is the quintessential neckbeard weeaboo. He considers himself an intellectual, and anyone who doesn't share his beliefs is beneath him. He wants a petite Japanese virgin. She's gotta be perfect. She has to have a slightly protruding canine tooth because it's kawaii. He's already limited himself to a niche demographic of women, and he has nothing to offer except his 1996 Honda Civic DX with 203,000 miles. So why am I friends with him? I feel bad for the guy. If he shaved his patchy beard, loses 100 pounds, worked out regularly, and stopped pushing his beliefs on people, he might actually get a girl. Doesn't have to be a petite Japanese virgin with a slightly crooked canine tooth.
The fact that the neckbeard in this story has such specific desires of a woman leads me to believe he's just giving himself permission to fail. Like Homer Simpson before me, I consider myself a people person who drinks, and to my knowledge, I have never met a girl exactly as this neckbeard is describing that he wants. So yeah, when you limit your dating pool that much, you're just giving yourself permission to fail. I feel like the person making that post is a little too harsh, saying he needs to lose 100 pounds. Like, that's a really easy thing to do. It's really fucking hard to lose an entire, teenager. But yeah, the whole wanting a kawaii girl is kind of weird.
I had a buddy of mine who was 100% an incel, and from reading most of these posts, they all sound fairly similar. He is 29 years old, 6'1", not bad looking, Asian guy with a lot of money. But he is so socially awkward that outside of internet dating sites, he has no real way to approach a woman, so dating sites it is. Except he still doesn't even do that correctly. He refused to post a picture of himself because being Asian is a disadvantage. I am not going to argue that point regardless of if it's true or not. It doesn't save him from having to post a picture just like everyone else does. I've even tried using the logic of, would you date a girl from the website if she didn't put a picture up? With his answer being no, as expected. This still doesn't convince him to put up a picture though. My general takeaway from this type of guy is that he, 1, lacks charisma to the point of being debilitatingly shy, and 2, unshamefully expresses a double standard of attractiveness by refusing to show his picture, but only selects 9s or 10s on a dating site. Number 2 seems to be the biggest factor in these incel dudes. It's not that women show no interest in them, it's that if a guy is clearly a 5 and only willing to talk to a 9 to 10, it's not realistic.
This guy's friend reminds me an awful lot of Elliot Rodger. Hopefully things end better for him than it did for Elliot. E-Raj, if you don't know, is an incel who got pretty famous on YouTube after he tried to off some people and ended up offing himself as well, all because he couldn't get laid. Now, he was not an unattractive guy. I mean, he looked a little douchey. That might have been his facial expression. I've known guys that looked like E-Rog, and they did fairly well, but they also had a personality. He just didn't know how to talk to women, thought for some reason that him being half Asian was somehow a disability, and again, really brought nothing to the table personality-wise, but thought he just deserved sex and an absolute 10 of a woman. He was also from a wealthy family, and that's the thing, is that there is more to life than looks and money. You do have to have a personality. Now, again, incels often like to go, oh, they say personality matters, but I've got a good personality. You probably don't, and it's not that only personality matters. It's you have to look a way that is attractive to women, and that is very, very subjective, so there's no one answer for that. And 2, you have to have a personality that is attractive to them. And 3, money isn't everything, but it does help because nobody wants to be supporting your broke ass. I've had an incel friend. He wasn't extreme, nor was he very ugly or whatever. The thing is their mind and attitude. If they were more positive and took care of themselves more, I think incels would have a chance with women. The extreme ones are more of a lost cause. Love this answer. If you tell yourself you can't, then you're correct. I had a best friend who I fucking loved, as in Loved. He was tall, overweight, had serious body issues, had a major medical issue, and was kind of an asshole. I didn't care about any of that. He treated me like a person and was 100% fuckable. However, despite being overweight, he didn't want to date fat girls. I just assume it was his own self-loathing that fed into that. I'm slender and conventionally attractive. Why then, when he moved nearby and tried to get me out of my abusive parents' house, did I not instantly move in with him and start polishing his sausage every morning? Because he blamed feminists for all of his troubles, called women awful harpies, and literally told me that when we first met, he had acted inappropriately, and honestly terrified me, so I would at least hate him instead of forget him. Since he made a super nasty oral sex joke. I don't fancy oral, but that's beside the point. He was offended. He said, "Why didn't you give me a chance?" Because, dumbass, I don't know you, and I had been assaulted, threatened, and attacked before too many times. I can't take a chance on any guy who scares me. That is a good way to get myself hurt or even killed. We friend broke up, and he didn't talk to me for a while. Later I got a call. His medical condition had killed him. My heart was broken, and I blamed myself. I still do, because if I had been living with him, I could have saved him. If he didn't have his head up his ass about feminism, I'd be living with him now. I did eventually escape and moved on with my life, but I'll never forget him. He got his wish. I just wish it didn't make me cry. I have other relevant stories, but that's the most important one. First of all, just let me say, if you're someone who has never considered being with a bigger gal, don't knock it till you've tried it. I'm kind of skinny fat right now myself. I'm not the stick figure I used to be. I'm definitely working on my dad bod, but I definitely have a thing for women with a little extra meat on their bones. Way I like to put it, squishy in all the right places. Also, this post very adequately and elegantly defines the idea that most incels just talk their way out of any type of meaningful relationship. They've already decided that they will fail, and so they act accordingly, so that when they do fail, it's like, oh, there's nothing I can do, this was always bound to happen, And that's really the saddest part, is that if you just give yourself permission to succeed, you potentially can. I mean, you're not going to succeed right away. My status as a wizard is definitely proof of that, but you can get there eventually. You just have to be open to the idea that what you want is obtainable, even if that thing is that you just want a woman to want to fuck you. Instead they act like it's never going to happen, so they act accordingly. They're a total dick, they're scary, they're terrifying, they're misogynistic, and then when it never happens for them, then they act like they knew this was going to happen all the time and there's nothing they could have done differently. It's like all you had to do was try to succeed, and instead you actively tried to fail.
An incel personality is an example of someone with a particular confirmation bias, seeking out comfort in the shared misery of other persons who collectively suffer a similar victim psychology. Sexually frustrated young men sit up late at night in their stripped-down one-bedroom apartments making a series of hateful online posts to egg one another on. Assisted by a bottle of KY jelly, they ruminate on their feelings of entitlement to pussy. "Boo-hoo, woe is me," the incels moan. Somehow, it surprises you incels to learn that no barely legal benevolent supermodel is ever arriving to mindlessly donate her cunt lips to your charity program. Why does this surprise you? As you gently fap yourself to sleep at night, do you bother to ask yourself, does the lucky lady have any proposed motivation now or ever? Is there a reason that she would care to provide charitable pity fucks for humanity? This mindset of delusional, self-entitled wanktardism is not a proactive approach to real solutions. If you were an attractive lady, would you hump an angry, pathetic, low-balling blue-baller such as yourself? You need to be working on your game with Coach Corey Wayne. You need to be doing Cole Robinson's snake juice fast. You need to be doing the Elliot Hulse workout in the gym. You need a fucking job. Think about this. Vern Troyer got a wife. Stephen Hawking got a wife. Caterpillar Man with no arms or legs got himself a wife. Ching and Ing, the Chinese conjoined twins in the circus, both managed to marry separate women. All the incels have is a pathetic, learned helplessness, and a tendency to externalize blame outside themselves. You're a fat, dumpy little dude with your shorts down around your ankles. You are obsessed, stalkerish, and delusional. You are flat fucking broke. Not a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Desperation is not sexy. You have no motherfucking life. Would you fuck you if you were a woman? You sit about nightly, glazed over in front of a porn channel surrounded by jizz-soaked socks, hopelessly spanking the monkey with a 55-gallon economy drum of Vaseline. But amid all this, what have you actually done to help yourself? One poster asked the question, Why do no accomplished ladies want to finance me? Dude, you are a short, pimply-faced little weasel with an IQ lower than room temperature. Can you not check the mirror for some answers? The reason is this. She is not hoping to establish a cost-free alternative to the paid services you are so familiar with. I am talking about you as a seasoned, experienced punter well known to the escort services, the streetwalkers, the massage parlors, and the local bordello. In spite of you having blown your prostitution budget at the craps table, her home is not scheduled to be remodeled into a cost-free venue for anything to happen there. Although she sends her condolences on your financial reversals, she has no intention of setting herself up as a brothel for the financially indignant, and if she was going to fuck anyone, he would look like Mr. Universe. Here's the reason no accomplished lady wants to share her resources with you. She doesn't want you beating off directly at her door because you look nothing like a Chippendales dancer. You're personally extremely difficult, and she doesn't get any warm, supportive emotional fuzzies from spending time with you. You have no resemblance to a competitive professional bodybuilder, and you don't add significant dollar value to the equation to justify the time and trouble of her contending with your daily delusional mindset. You're not jacked and hung, you have no social skills, and you're broke. Those are your top 3 problems right there. 1, 2, 3. Looks, game, and money. You have got to have at least one of these 3 items on this list. The sound of your rap-tap fapping yourself at her very door generates noise pollution when she is reading, sleeping, and watching television. Cheapskate on down to the gym. There is problem you can solve, and to save money, do a water fast until your BMI is around 16 to 18%.
Woo! That was a lot to read. I kind of I agreed with the person, like, right at the beginning, but they kind of started rambling and ranting with a lot near the end, like halfway through, that I really don't agree with a lot of it. Again, I don't believe you have to be rich or ungodly attractive in order to find yourself in a decent and fulfilling relationship. You definitely should have a good personality. Even with all the money and looks in the world, can't make up for being just a shit human being. But yeah, no woman worth your time of day is going to want anything to do with you if you're not worth hers. Again, when I started my relationship with my now fiance, one of the things I had to learn, and in fact I'm still learning, because you're really never done learning, is how to be a more empathetic partner, how to be supportive, how to be someone that is good for her as much as she is good for me. Because that's the problem with a lot of these incels, is they think that once they happen to get into a relationship, a sexual one, it's just going to be sex on demand. This woman is going to be there to fulfill every need you could possibly want, and that's not it. This isn't porn. She's never going to be doing laundry and you being a whiny little bitch. She's not going to give you a blowjob and let you cream pie her just to shut you up. They're looking for a partner, not somebody who's going to make their life more difficult until they get them off. Relationships are about so much more than just having a place to blow your load.
Not sure if this particular friend counts as an incel, per se, since he doesn't have the hateful, entitled to sex attitude of one, but his issue is he talks about how attracted he is to certain girls and how he wants to date or even marry them, but then won't even talk to them. And if he does, he's very awkward and doesn't understand the boundaries of appropriate physical touch. These 2 things unfortunately combine to make my friend come across as creepy to women. My wife was worried this guy and me would never be able to be friends since she's pretty sure he formerly had a crush on her. But we get along fine. He's a great guy. He just needs some female friends so he can get more comfortable with women. Every time he tells me about a woman he likes, I'm like, dude, ask her on a date. Worst thing that can happen is she will say no. They're not even out of his league or anything, but he doesn't say anything to them, and a couple weeks later we're back to square one with a new girl. It's frustrating. I would definitely say this guy is not an incel, because there are people who want to get laid and can't, and then there are incels. Well, yes, from an actual dictionary standpoint, he is an involuntary celibate. Incel is more of a title that people give to themselves, and once you do that, once you join that community, you get into this mindset that's very anti-women, very anti-couple, it's everyone's fault but mine. This guy just has some awkwardness that he hasn't gotten over yet, but I definitely hope that whoever posted this, again, this was 5 years ago when this post was made, so hopefully the guy figured it out and never got into the incel community and therefore didn't become just another hate monger. I am very glad that even though I am, as stated before, a wizard, I had ended my involuntary celibacy before I ever heard the term incel, as I hate to think how awful my life would be had I found a way and decided to join that community, because I definitely am glad that I was not aware of this trope and therefore could not become a part of it. I think the problem with incels is that they divide the world into winners and losers, and only those who screw hot girls on a regular basis is considered a winner. They rank men's worth solely on how easy it is for them to screw 9s and 10s, and they rank women's worth solely on how beautiful/fuckable they are. Not being desired by the hottest girls out there does, in the incel's mind, make him worthless and a loser. He has terribly low self-esteem and believes that fucking girls, especially while treating them like shit, is the only way in which they can acquire value. This is why being rejected by a girl, and especially girls who aren't 9s and 10s, is so insulting to an incel. He feels like every grain of worth is taken away from him when hot girls don't throw themselves at his feet, and when not even average girls, who have no value in the incel's eyes, don't subdue themselves to the incel. It is too much for him to bear. Again, I agree completely. There are so many things in this world worse than not getting laid, and I normally would say outside of like after high school, but let's be honest, even in high school, nobody gives two shits about how much you're getting laid. They might care how much they themselves are getting laid, but nobody cares how much you are getting laid. In my entire 30 years as a virgin, nobody once ever bothered to ask me if I was one. And nobody wanted to hear stories about my sexual conquests, nor did I want to hear any about theirs. Whether you are or aren't having as much sex as you would like is entirely a you problem, and nobody else in this world cares about it. So to base your entire worth on your fuckability, your external value, is dumb and stupid and moronic. I've encountered incels, male, but also some female ones, and the common theme is that they believe they are somehow entitled to somebody else's body or time. Life treating you like shit doesn't mean life owes you a happy ending or even an alleviation of your pains. And yeah, I know that fucking sucks and that it's really unfair. It's also why I think people should be allowed to pursue medical euthanasia if they want to in their lives once they are 18 or 21 or whatever. And nobody owes you romantic sexual love. You can live your whole life without it and still be a good person. Sometimes you just have absolute shit luck when it comes to that particular sphere of your life, or maybe your soulmates died before you ever met them. If you want to date someone obscenely sexy, you have to be obscenely sexy, super wealthy, or have the confidence of a psychopath. Obviously the three of those together work best. I think the people who put forth no effort to improve themselves but want someone who is a 10 in every way aren't willing to face the fact that they are really wanting acceptance from their own self. But it feels impossible, so they pin their hopes on something equally impossible that is outside their body, so they have someone or a whole group of someones to blame for their shit lives. I think the total bullshit lie of bootstrapping your way to financial success makes it hard for people with emotional problems to realize when someone is selling them bullshit about romance and sex. Another excellent point. If you're not okay with yourself, it's not enough for someone else to be okay with you. That's not going to solve the problem, and it's going to be hard to get someone to accept you when you don't accept you. I had a thing for the longest time. I was like, I need to be the best me I can be before I start trying to I need to be a good enough person by myself before I can really make a relationship work. And I worked on myself for a long time, and then when I realized that I was the best version of me that I was going to be, yeah, I got a little lonely and I got a little bit depressed because it was like, cool, now comes the hard part. But I'll be honest, not long after that, once I was okay with me, despite the fact that, yeah, I really wanted a relationship, the fact that I was not self-loathing, I think that's really why I was able to move forward in my life and be in the situation I'm in today. Work on yourself rather than blaming others. Also, the whole life doesn't owe you a happy ending I think is really on the head, because we all see these movies and TV shows where people go through absolute shit circumstances, but it all works out in the end, and that's just not always life. Incels come in 3 basic flavors. 1. Non-neurotypicals who cannot figure out social interaction or function well enough in it to succeed. This is probably a small majority of them. 2. Guys who actually are unattractive enough to have serious issues with dating that can only be overcome by having kick-ass social skills. This is a small minority judging by the pictures that get honestly posted so far. 3. Predators, narcissists, and abusers who have found their ability to interact with women limited by the growing collective education in predatory tactics, abusive red flags, and narcissistic patterns. These seem to be the most vocal ones in the community, so either they are a big non-majority or a really vocal minority. The problem that they don't want to get is that there is always personal control that can be taken for your own life. Whether it's fair that you have to overcome that problem or not, they still don't want to have to try. Forever Alone, by comparison, seems to be filled with people who want to try and want to fix things but don't know how. I definitely agree with a lot of the incel community are just toxic people who want to blame society for why their toxic behavior doesn't get them laid anymore. The real problem with incels is that they do not know nor wish to care about what societal norms are and how it applies to peer-to-peer relationships. It's like they try to rewrite the rules to a game composed out of laws so it is easier to win for them. Also, their whole perspective on people is all messed up. It is like the nice guys not understanding how they got placed in the friend box who get burned when their sexual advances fail them at last minute. The incel, just like the nice guy, thinks it is because the girl prefers the better option that the guy being chosen is a douchebag and that she prefers to be abused. It is like they associate things and people like that of a young student transitioning from middle school to high school. They associate jocks with Chad because they tend to be beaten up or mocked by these people back in grade school. Rather than listen and learn from their enemies, they rather be trapped in the basement for the rest of their pathetic lives, ogling at porn and surfing up image boards. If they only knew to learn from their enemy. Again, just like with some previous posts in this video, I agree with the top half of this, but then think they tend to get ranty at the bottom. I don't think anyone needs to view anyone else as their enemy for no reason, especially when that person hasn't done anything for you, to you. I've been a nerd my entire life, and I've had friends that have every type of hobby. I've always been able to fit in with the jocks, with the other nerds, with the theater kids, the band kids, the choir kids, the people that are smarter than me. You don't have to choose sides. There's no you versus them. There's no you, there's no them. They're just our people. Everybody can find common ground if you talk about enough things. And so yeah, but if you, let's say you have a friend, you know someone who's really good with women, talk to them. Figure out what you can do to not emulate them, but to improve yourself. Just because Chad gets the girls doesn't make Chad your enemy. Hell, if Chad likes you, if you're a nice person, he'd probably be willing to give you some tips. I mean, just because you getting a girl doesn't hurt Chad, and you seem to think that Chad getting a girl hurts you, and that's the problem, is he's not your enemy. When I decided to ask a girl out for the first time ever, what did I do? I went to one of my friends. In this case, it was actually a female friend, but it was like, hey, you can give me some help here. What do I do? And I would have felt the same way going to a male friend that I trusted. It's not that you should learn from your enemy, it's that you don't have to see people as an enemy. Their success doesn't hurt you. It's not about winners and losers. Someone doesn't have to lose for you to win, at least in this case. Raise yourself up with others rather than trying to bring them down. And guys, that's gonna be our video. Again, today is the last day for the 20% off sale. Please head over to Etsy and buy a mini, buy a couple minis, get that free shipping too. And I'm Mr. Sean. Thank you for listening to my post today on Chimera Miniatures' official YouTube channel, and I sincerely hope that whatever's going on in your life, that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye!